It is a beautiful day to join us in Hyphens Haven, the space for multi-hyphenate artists who work on stage and off, in front of the camera and behind the scenes. We share our paths to becoming who we are. Today, we spotlight a New York City and Los Angeles-based costume designer with over 100 builds under her name. Some of the artists she's worked with include Madonna, Billie Eilish, Viola Davis, and Mariah Carey. She's also passionate about teaching the next generation the way it really works in a professional costume shop. She is a curriculum editor and writer for the National Arts Association, National Education Association for high schools and costume design and construction. In fact, she has costumed in 41 states and 3 continents, and her goal is to teach in every state and every continent in this world. So it is my pleasure to introduce the multi-hyphenate artist, Shirlee Idzakovich. Hi, Shirlee. How are you?
I'm so good. You are so sweet and so kind. I'm like listening to you and I'm like, wow, that's incredible. I want to meet her. Oh, wait a minute. I am her. It's so crazy world.
So as we want the audience to get to know you and to understand your journey, we always start at your genesis. So can you tell us about your parents or those who loved you and their names and professions, as well as where you're from?
I'm from a very small town in Southern Ohio. And I grew up without a mall around me. We had to travel like 2 hours to get to any mall. We didn't have the big stores, anything like that. I was 14 or 15, and in the state of Ohio, you could not work unless you had a parent sign off on a waiver that said that they would allow you to work when I was younger. And I've always loved fashion. That's like my number one passion, was always reading. But we're talking back in the 80s, because I'm almost 60. We're talking Esprit, big magazines that used to come, Jordache, Vidal Sassoon, Gloria Vanderbilt, all of those, Calvin Klein. And I was just so into it. So my dad signed a paper and I went to work at this little tiny clothing shop in our little town called El Ropero. And the lady who owned the shop was from Nicaragua. And I learned so much from her. She literally taught me everything that I wish I would have paid more attention to her, because I was 14, 15. But still to this day, we are still dear friends. I always show her things when I think about it first before it goes out, and just to have her stamp of approval. But no, I did not come from a family that had money, that had big shopping things. We were very, very middle class, very workaholics. You know, my father was in used car sales, and I did get a lot of my drive and ambition from him. That's how I see it in my world. But I just have always wanted to be in the fashion world. And it's not necessarily that I wanted to dress and look like that. I just love the art of it, because I was always dressed very simple, very basic, not outlandish. I wanted to be the ones behind the scene that helped the people that dress up look better. That was my goal, even way back in the day.
Wow.
But yeah.
So that's a big moment to come to work in that space, to learn so much just at the age of 14, you say?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. So I'm curious if you had sparks of like, I'm going towards this path, even in your elementary school days. Do you recall a teacher maybe in elementary school? And what elementary school did you attend in Ohio?
Okay, it was, oh my gosh, within the changes that they made in our little district, I was at a school called Nauvoo Elementary, and we I did have a teacher. Her name was Vicki Evans, and Vicki was so creative, and just like my first boss, I still am friends with Vicki. She just really gave me the pass to not stay inside the box, I guess you would say. And, when you think back of your childhood and your classes and your teachers and this and that and the other, I can probably recall more of her class. And even though she was my teacher for the whole day, it wasn't just like an art project or a theater project, because we didn't have theater in our school. And I barely remember art, but I do remember her teaching us things. And what is so funny, we had in our school, it was a very old school building, and there was 3 classrooms, I think, in the basement. And Vicki was a new teacher, I think, or like a second year teacher when I got her, and her class was in the basement. And everyone thought that if your class was in the basement, that you were not in a regular class, that you were in a class for special needs. And I will never forget going down those stairs and sitting in that classroom the first day. And I thought, wow, I didn't realize I needed help because everyone in the class, we were all like, man, our test scores or something's wrong. We shouldn't be here. And then when she walked in and said, this is the only room they had for me, I know we're in the basement of this building, which at the time was a big thing. Oh, your classes are in the basement. And, us being 3rd graders, 4th graders, we were just cruel to each other. I mean, we didn't hold back. It was just like, say whatever you think. And I remember after the first day of being in that basement, I was so proud to be down there. I was so happy that the stars aligned and I did get put in the basement within that new teacher's classroom. We're the only class that was in that basement, because I took away more from her than I think any other teacher my entire life. I mean, we're talking all the way through high school, because I mean, there were some good ones that came along, but nothing impacted me more than Mrs. Evans' class. And she is still to this day, she's creating, she's working, she's retired. She does things on the side. I'll see some things that she does, pick up jewelry, woodwork, things here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be you when I grow up. You're just never stopping, never stop learning, always committing to something, keeping her mind busy, keeping her body busy, just keep going and not staying stagnant. But yeah, what turned out, we thought as a classroom that we were all in a classroom where we didn't know we were supposed to be there. I mean, I remember kids literally got up and walked out because they didn't want to be in the basement of that building. Yeah. But the school was small little community. I think today, as of today, there's less than 40,000 in our whole county. So very small community, but still very much a part of who I am from where I was, because even though nobody there really did fashion, I mean, everybody looked great. Everyone looked amazing. And we are very close to rural Appalachia. I mean, I didn't know we were rural Appalachia. I thought everyone wore flannel shirts, t-shirts, simple button downs every day. I truly thought growing up that the only reason a man wore a suit was to go to a funeral. I didn't know that very many men that wore suits every day. And one of my best friends, her dad was a principal. And I remember thinking about him and I'm like, why didn't I associate him wearing a suit every day as being a principal? But I didn't. We truly thought that if you had a suit on, that's when you were going to a funeral. That was it. I mean, nobody in my world wore suits. Nobody. I remember going into town and maybe seeing a few bankers that had suits on, but it was crazy. But my world of fashion growing up did not consist of true couture, high-end fashion. But I still remember and think back of how these people dressed and what they wore and how they wore. And it's still a huge impact on what I still do today. Because my style is not really high end. It's more street hype grunge. than it is very, very high end, even though I can do the high end, which I just proved to Miss Mariah Carey and her amazing birthday outfit she just wore. So, but that's truly where my heart is, and in that look, that's how I dress every day. Is looking back at how they dress. That's truly how I dress every day.
So going from the basement, I mean,
The
you
base,
really from the basement and building this foundation. So now the only way you can go is up. So you're moving on. Let's say you're going to middle school. And I think middle school, you're introduced to home economics and whatnot, and you can start to make things. Is that where you start to look at how to put things together using hand?
I know. I think I started younger because I always tore things apart, redid things. I truly taught myself how to sew. I just wanted to do it, and no one taught me. And I hate to say it, but there was a show on PBS called Sewing with Nancy, and I religiously used to try to watch that show when I was in junior high, from junior high all the way up to high school. And, this is before DVRs and recording and all of that. But I couldn't get enough of watching people sew, watching them decorate, anything that I could find on television, which back in the day wasn't very many channels. But if there was a PBS station that had any kind of sewing on it, our home economics didn't start until high school. And I am ashamed to say that I didn't take it because I was a band and chorus kid, because I loved in the band. The band was so much fun. Oh my gosh. We had to choose one or the other. We weren't allowed to do both. So I didn't take it. I kind of wish I would have, because I didn't know that they did that in home ec. At the time, growing up through high school, I didn't know they sewed in home ec. I had no idea. That is crazy, isn't it? I probably would have at least passed thriving without struggling, because I'm like, I don't like to read about this stuff. I would much rather read a fashion magazine. And that's another thing. In junior high, that's when fashion magazines started to become my world, and fashion books and fashion catalogs, and there just wasn't enough around me that I couldn't absorb. I just wanted to absorb everything. And our local library, I could go to our library and read every fashion magazine out there, because I didn't have the money to buy all of them. I mean, that would have been way too much. But just every magazine that they got in their library stash, I read every single one from cover to cover. I remember going there like every Saturday and just reading every magazine, because I couldn't get enough of it. And that was junior high. And then high school, that's just when I just started dressing the way I wanted. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. I can wear one red shoe and one blue shoe. Doesn't matter. I'm going to do it too. And I did. I mean, I literally wore what I wanted. And 90% of the time, it was not what everybody else was wearing. At our prom in 1982, everyone was wearing these. It was either a big bell dress or it was a tight, slender Michael Bennett, or not Michael Bennett. Oh, I can't remember the designer. But some kind of sleek, beaded Miss America looking knockoff gown. I wore a black suede halter dress. I'm like, this is what I want to wear to my prom. I don't want to wear that other stuff. So, just things like that. It's like, this is crazy that everybody else wants to look like that, but I don't want to look like that. I want to look like this. And I couldn't get enough of different cultures around me, which I grew up in an extremely non-cultured area. I mean, there was no one of color in my high school, of any color, none. And I remember when we traveled, and most of the travel we did with my high school, with the band, when we traveled like to a bigger city to perform, or traveled to a bigger place to have a competition or something like that. I remember seeing kids from all over, and I was blown away. I remember taking my pencil and sketch pad and sketching what they had on. because I wanted to go back and imitate it. I'm like, oh my gosh, look what they're doing with their hair. Look what they're doing, what they're wearing on their head. Look what they're wearing on their body. Look at how they're wearing their shirts. Look at what they're shooting. This was so different for me. And I'm talking all kinds of cultures. I couldn't get enough of it. So when I finally was out of high school, I went to college for a year in West Virginia because it was really close to where I lived. It seemed like everybody went there. And I liked it. It was good. I learned a lot, and I learned that it wasn't the place for me. So I found a school down in South Carolina because back in 1982, 83, there was a lot of manufacturing in America. We made a lot of things here. There was a lot of clothing manufacturing, especially in the Carolinas. And I found a school down in South Carolina that gave a degree in pattern making, which they don't even give that degree anymore. Like, you can go into fashion and you go into fashion design, or you can go into fashion construction, but they don't give a pattern making degree per se. And they've broken it down so much that, today's students that come out of college, it's hard for them to learn because you have to go either construction or design. And to find a school that does both of them is really hard. There are some out there that do it, and you have to get several different degrees. They make it a lot harder for you. But I wanted that degree in costume and pattern making, which is the basis of everything that I do. Because it's funny now when I teach, they're like, well, what pattern do you use? And I'm like, I don't use a pattern. I don't ever use a pattern. I don't know what you're talking about. We all know what a skirt shape looks like. We all know what a top looks like. We all know what shorts and pants look like. I don't need it. Just throw the fabric out and let me start cutting. When I do a garment, if I need a specific waist or a specific bust or hips, I will measure it out and kind of mark it to where I'm going to go. But it always starts with that big rough draft cut, that box, and then just start pulling it in, because I already know what the patterns are. I've done them for years. There's very few patterns, unless you're getting into like a Japanese origami kind of pattern, but there's very few patterns you can figure out. That is not hard. But after getting that degree, I literally got married and quit working. Well, I really didn't even start working. I worked a lot in fashion and in stores, and I've done everything from write copy for the advertising to working in windows. But it truly was fashion. That's where I was. And I didn't get into costumes until my oldest daughter was in like 5th grade. And I was somewhere out of town when she had auditions, and she called me out of town. She goes, Mom, I'm in the school play. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I didn't think anything of it. I like theater, but it wasn't my passion. It wasn't my truth. It wasn't something I did all the time. And I said, well, what's the show? And she goes, it's Annie. And I'm like, oh, that's great. She goes, and I'm Annie. And I'm like, oh, that's even better. I said, cool. And so I got home that night. I'm talking like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And she said, oh, the director knows that you can sew. She wants to know if you can make my dress. And I kind of looked at her and I'm like, well, yeah. I said, which one? She goes, that little red dress with the white trim. I made it that night. And she took it in the next day. And it's so funny. The director called me like at 8 a.m. The next morning, she goes, I didn't need this until like 3 months from now. She goes, you can really sew. And I'm like, yeah, I can really sew. I can do it. And from that on, that time on, it just blew up. That's all I've done since. So it's crazy, crazy, crazy.
I am blown away about your story.
I thought they needed when she said I'm Annie, I thought, oh, they'll do the play tomorrow. She needs the dress, so I'll make it for her. It took me like hour and a half, and I probably hit bed about 1 a.m, but I made it, and she went in with her. And from that point on, when in Ohio, where we were, because that's where I was when I was really doing it constantly, I was costuming for like 8 or 9 different community theaters and high schools in my little area. And I was doing it for like hardly nothing. I did their whole shows for hardly nothing. Yeah. Like $300, their whole show, custom built. head to toe, all the people on stage. I had no idea. I had no idea. So crazy.
Transition from, okay, you obviously have this great talent. You can put together an entire show with pennies. So was there a decision you had to make where, okay, you see people are coming at you, they're asking you, can you do my show? What happened to transition you from just doing this on the side, like, okay, I'm going to switch this to full time and actually make a living at this? What happened?
Yep. I won this award called the Freddie G Fellows, and I was brought to New York City, which I've been to New York City many times for fashion, but this was like one of the very first big times for theater. And that was it. That I was done. I looked at my husband and I said, I have supported you for the past 20 years. I have sat by and helped 100% while you went through school and you got your degrees and this and that and the other, because I'm not a big school lover. I like school for somebody else to do it, because I'm more of a, just let me take the toaster apart and fix it kind of girl, instead of let me read about it girl. And if he loves school, I'm here for it. Let him do it. But it wasn't for me. I said, but I want to do something now. I said, I have the opportunity to go to New York City and work. What are your thoughts? And now at this point, my oldest was in college in New York City. She decided to come here. My middle child was getting ready to go to college. And I had one at home who was in 5th grade. And the one at home said, you're not moving to New York City without me going with you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because she was really into art. And we just decided as a family unit, me and all 3 of my daughters, we're going to move into a 1-bedroom in New York City, because you can't afford 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. It's not the same way it is. I'm actually in the exact same apartment we moved in 13 years ago. Yeah. I hate to move. Oh my gosh, I hate to move. But we all lived here together for 6 years in 1 bedroom. I mean, it's a big 1 bedroom. I'm a little spoiled because it is a big 1 bedroom. But we lived in the same apartment. All of my friends back in Ohio, they're like, I can't believe you all live in a 1 bedroom. And I'm like, we're lucky. We're lucky. I know 12 people that live in a 1 bedroom. We only have 4. Now, when we got company, it was a little crowded. We've had upwards to 10 people in this 1 bedroom apartment before, and literally sleeping on air mattresses all over the place. But both of my older daughters have moved out. My younger daughter goes to school, so she's here and there. She comes back and forth. So now it's perfect. That was perfect. Like, I got my 1 bedroom. I'm back at it. But that's how it started. And I just said, okay, if we're going to go, we're going to do it. My husband still lives in Ohio. And he works in medicine, and he works 7 days on, 7 days off, nocturnal. So he's at a hospital 7 days on, and then he has 7 days off. So like once a month, he comes here, or he comes and visits me wherever I am on set or at a conference in LA, because we have a small place in LA as well that we stay at. But it is quite the challenge. It's so funny, because I remember when my kids were really young, we used to think, going from Ohio to doing the different things that they did. And it was such a small, tight little circle. Now my circle consists of, am I going to be in New York, LA, or London? And where are my kids going to be? And this is a holiday coming up. How are we all going to get together? I mean, now it takes a small miracle for us to all be in the same state or country at one time, because all of us are just everywhere, all over the place. Like, my oldest daughter was just in Turks and Caicos on her job, and I was in LA. My youngest daughter is in New York. My middle daughter was in LA, but she was getting ready to go to Berlin for her job, and my husband was in Ohio. We literally are on all corners of the earth. So, and I think the one thing out of everything, fashion, costuming, I think I showed my kids a world that was bigger than their little corner. And, if they wanted to stay in that little corner, that's fine. There is nothing wrong with staying in that little corner. But look at this world that's out there. And I think that was the one thing I wanted to give them, that there was so much more than that corner, which that corner is amazing. I mean, that corner is a great little corner. You were all raised there and you turned out pretty good. I mean, they're kids that you're not going to have perfect all the way, but to my eyes, they're perfect, but trust me, they're not perfect. But that corner, it could be something so much bigger if you just open your eyes and look in the other corners. And I'm so happy that I did show them that actually is one of my crowning glories of being an almost 60-year-old female, empowering 3 young females, because I'm a big feminist, and I'm a feminist, even if it's women that I don't agree with. I'm still gonna fight for their rights. I'm still gonna fight for them to have a voice. But I feel that raising 3 daughters, my job was to make sure they were strong enough to be able to make their own choices. Because I knew growing up that there was a lot of choices I couldn't make on my own. There was a lot of choices of schools, choices of what, even in clothing, what I wanted to wear. I remember in junior high, I wore an outfit and I had a couple of boys that made fun of it, which I'm sure they did because it was very different back then. I mean, what I had on, it wasn't what everyone else was wearing. And sometimes when you get stuck in that little corner mentality, if you don't look like them or dress like them, you're so different. And I got that a lot. And looking back, I'm like, that's a badge of honor now. But going through it, it was so hard because I remember crying because they made fun of this or made fun of that. Or I even had a teacher comment on what I was wearing one time. And I'm like, at the time, it really hurt me. And it kind of stopped me for weeks, being creative and not wanting to do it because I didn't realize, that he thought this way. And looking back on it, I should have just turned around and said, I don't know who you think you are, but you keep your opinion to yourself. You don't like it? Turn around, look the other way. But I wasn't strong enough. And I think I tried my hardest to make sure. And not only when I teach, and not only females, I want everyone to know that their opinion counts. How you present yourself counts. Even though I have a lot of kids that tell me at conferences, oh, I'm not into fashion. I'm not into all that. And I'm looking them up and down. I'm like, yeah, you are. You just don't know it. What you have on was a choice. What you're wearing is a choice. How you put yourself together, you're telling me something. You just don't know what you're telling, but I know what you're telling me. And that is, they just look at me and I'm like, listen, it's not a negative. It's a positive. You think you're not in the fashion, but I can clearly tell you got something going on here. You're telling me something, whether it's fashionable, whether it's political, whether it's based on your nationality, you're telling me something. And that's something to be proud of. I want you to keep telling your story. I want you to tell me exactly. I want to see someone across the room and say, oh, look at that. It's incredible. And I'm the first person to walk up to him and say, oh, where did you get that? That I'm beyond blown away of what you have on. And I do it. But I've done it my whole life. I've always been the one that walked up to someone, no matter if there was a language barrier, a culture barrier, a race, whatever was going on. I walked right up to him and I'm like, tell me where you got that, please tell me. And why are you wearing that? Please tell me. And even my kids, when they were young, they're like, Mom, stop, don't do that. Like, get me in an elevator with somebody that I love something they have on. That's it. The whole ride, up or down. We're going to talk about what they have on and where they got it. And my kids would be like, Mom, why do you do that? Stop asking people what they're wearing. I'm like, I want to know. And I'm also the first to look at some queen and say, oh my gosh, you look amazing, because I'm not threatened. I'm not intimidated. I want them to look amazing. I think that you and I have spoke about this before, because you're like me. There's plenty of room here. Let's see how many people we can gather to make our dialogue broader and better and bring it up. And I always say there is plenty of room at this table. Pull up a chair. Let's have a seat. Let's talk. Let's do it. So, and when you come at costuming and fashion with that kind of perspective, it's hard because most people are gatekeepers. Not all of them, but majority of them. And they do not want you stepping up. And I had someone once tell me, I don't understand why you help all these young kids, because aren't you afraid that they're going to come up and go over you? And I'm like, that's my hope. I said, I want them to hire me one day. I want to be old and in my 80s and 90s. And I want them to call me up and say, hey, will you come and work on this project with me? And I'm like, yeah, I'll be there in a heartbeat. I want them to know that I had their back completely growing up. When I bring in interns to my world now in New York or in LA, I drop them right in the middle of the chaos. And at the time, they're so overwhelmed, but the strong ones will survive and they will wait it through and they'll get through it. And 4 or 5 years down the road, they're like, I had no idea the gift you gave me. No idea of where you threw me. And now I'm doing this and that and the other. But no, I want them to survive. I want young costumers to survive and understand what the real world is. It's like, just like when you teach, we both try to teach reality and how it really is. Not what you see on TV or film or what you might have heard of somebody in passing that's telling the glory story. Let me tell you the real story. Let me tell you how it really is. And I don't want to scare them, but I want them to understand that you need to be a little more secure, a little more quiet when you're in a room where everyone is above you, a little more ears open and a lot more confident that you're not going to take everything to heart and you're going to get through that day and come back the next day. Because I've had people come one day and they're like, I can't do this. And I'm like, okay, you can't do it. That's more than fine. I said, this is not for, if you truly want costuming and design and construction as a passion, you got to weed through the nonsense, because climbing the ladder is hard. It's really hard. And I think when you first come out of a trade school or college, I think you feel, oh, okay, well, where am I going to design at? It's like, are you kidding me? You're going to be an apprentice for 5 to 10 years before you even step foot in that design chair. And that might not come that soon. I mean, I look at the peoples and the powers that come before me. Funny story, thinking of that. I was with Bjork Lee yesterday for lunch, who was the original Connie in Chorus Line. And I said, Bjork, did you see the New York Performing Arts Library has a great exhibit about Willa Kim, the costume designer for Victor, Victoria. Oh my gosh, so many dance costumes. She did tons. She said, what? And I said, no, let's go. So I drug her. Like, we were like 3 blocks away, and I drug her over there, and we're over there and we're looking through all of them, walking through this exhibit of Willa Kim's costumes, which is a really good exhibit. And it's at the library. It's free. Big library supporter. She was giving me the history of all the people at the dance companies that were all through this room. And she knew all of them. Oh yeah, look, there's sons. Oh gosh, yeah, I worked with them. And I'm sitting there going, you just brought a whole new aspect to this. This is crazy. And we were talking about Willa Kim. She goes, yeah, Irene Schiff trained Willa Kim. And William Ivy Long worked under Willa Kim. So there's this procession of costume designers that just kept going generations to generations. Because Irene Schiff was with the Metro Goldwyn Universal Paramount back in the day. And then Willa Kim went under her and then branched out and did Broadway. And then William Ivy Long worked under Willa Kim and reached out. I mean, this whole line of succession. It's like, you have to spend years working for these houses and under these major designers before you can get your name out there. The fact that I can work with Madonna and I get to work with Mariah Carey is because I've learned to sew so well. I'm not the best seamstress in the world, and there's a lot of times I mess up, but I understand how the garment's constructed and I understand how it looks on that shape. And that is my big in, because they're like, oh, we want Shirlee here. Because I toured with Mariah. And, you know, I'm on set. I have 2 big shoots this week, major shoots. One's with Jennifer Lawrence, and another one's with the cast of Miss Maisel that just closed. And I know with them bringing me in that they're going to have fit issues with everything, and they're wanting it to look like $1 million. So, but I have such a different life than just a costumer or just a designer, because I always fall back on the tailoring and the fit and making it perfect, and then designing something, then doing a show, and then, you know, branching out and building custom dresses or custom suits for someone, that what they're doing. But I've gained their trust, which helps tremendously in this field, because your reputation is only as good as you are. I mean, if you say you're going to do it, you better do it. And that is a hard one, because I hear people all the time like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this and that and the other. And I'm like, okay, go do it. Go do it. Don't sit here and tell me about it. Get out there and work and hit the pavement and do it.
So, I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge, and it's just so amazing to listen to all that you have been through. And I want to take it back to when you was shortly after you won the award and your family has moved in. What was that first project that you worked on? Or you mentioned that you had to work in a house first. So how did that line of succession work, from going from winning the award, moving, your children are there, okay, now I need to work?
Yeah, I've never worked in a house. I've never worked under a designer, ever, 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 ever. And my first job was a show off Broadway called A Little Princess. And from there, it just started building and building and building. And I was on set for Vogue, because once Vogue realizes that there's someone in town that can tailor really, really well. I mean, there's a lot of people here that can sew. I mean, they're great seamstresses, but to actually know how to tailor and take it apart and reconstruct it, which is hard. I mean, I'd rather build it from scratch than reconstruct it, but I can. And I've worked in Vogue for their editorials for a long time. And I was working on an editorial with someone who worked with Madonna. And the next day I got a call saying, hey, this is so-and-so. We heard that, you know, you're really good at tailoring. Would you be interested in doing? And I didn't know who it was for. It was just there. We have a very high-end star that would like for you to come to her residency and help her with some pieces that she's going for a look or something. And it was a stylist that called me. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I never done that before. I've never went to someone's house and did it for them. That wasn't a friend of mine or somebody I was doing personally, just for fun. And I said, sure, you know, this is my rate, going on from there, which at the time was just funny because I didn't know what I was talking about. But I did it and I went. And when I got there, they opened the door and it wasn't them. It was her whole staff and it was, you know, everybody around. And I'm looking around. I'm like, whose house is this? And they're like, Madonna's. Jaw drop. Like, I think I cried for 3 minutes because here I am, one of her biggest fans. I mean, my gosh, in high school, who else did we have to look up to but Madonna? It was Sade, Madonna. Janet Jackson didn't come along until a little bit later. I mean, there were very few, not only female, but fashion and music icons that we were like, I can't get enough of this. I need more of what we're going, you know. When she did her Like a Virgin tour, I mean, everybody in her whole town was dressing like her. But it was crazy. It was surreal. But then after like 5-10 minutes with her, everything changed. It's like, okay, just a person. She's amazing. But it was wonderful just to be in her presence. And she's such an artist. And then it just grew from there. And then from there, it grew to 20 other people. And I do a lot of editorial for cover shoots, and I get to meet a lot of my clientele that way. I've done several with Billie Eilish, Viola Davis, the whole cast of Woman King, which was, to me, life altering when I got to meet this group of amazing Black women, because here they were, not only I got to meet the director and the 4 or 5 leads that were in that cast. And they did a roundtable discussion that they filmed along with this shoot. And I mean, everybody in the room was just in tears. It was just, I felt beyond blessed just being in that space. And I felt like every job has connected me to another job, or every interaction with this group. And the thing that I learned, and I've learned it way younger, no matter who's in the room, you treat everyone the same. No matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's someone sweeping up the floors, taking out the trash, sitting at the desk, doing the appointments. It doesn't matter who it is. Even if someone comes in that's a handler with a dog that's on set, that handler, I treat everyone with the utmost respect. And I have no reason not to treat them with the utmost respect. So, you know, when you learn early on to be kind and nice, and I mean, you don't have to lay down like a doormat, but you at least respect everyone in the room. And I think that has helped tremendously. I mean, I even send out thank you notes to the people I work with. You know, thank you. It was a great shoot. And, you know, the photographers, I've worked with so many amazing photographers and so many production companies, so many stylists, so many, so it's not only all about the talent. The talent is what everyone else sees, but in my world, it's everyone that's on that production set. It's everyone from the person who owns and runs and backs the production set with money, all the way down to the person who turns the light out and locks the door and leaves. So it's a group effort. It's never just one person. Behind that one person, there's 20 people immediately in their orbit, and then there's 500 people outside that orbit, getting that one person to where that they need to be.
Wow. So you're amazing. Again, you incredible. So can you share with the students who I know who are listening, what is your process of working in your position? Like, is there a team that you call upon when you're asked to do a project? How does that work? I have at least 4 to 10 people that I can call upon that we don't work full-time, that they don't work full-time. I've got 2 that work full-time, and then I have 4 that come in when I need them because they work in New York or in LA. It's somewhat, you don't really, unless you go to work for a full-time company, which there's plenty of them that you can do that, you work day jobs constantly. Like, I probably know 300 people that just work day jobs, and there's so many day jobs, and they're booked up for 5 or 6 months with just day jobs. I have people that I hire just to build, or that just draft, or just drape. I have people that I hire just to shop for fabrics. It depends on how overbooked I am. If I've only got one job going, it depends on how big the job is. Right before Thanksgiving, when Mariah Carey did the Thanksgiving Day parade, I probably have 12 people working for me. And it was crazy. I mean, crazy, because we were under the gun. I was actually at a conference in Texas when I got the call, and I thought I was going to have to leave the conference to get back to New York City to get this done. And the people who run the conference, I told them, I said, I might have to leave. I said, I just got a really big job. Mariah Carey's the main talent at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is next week, which didn't come around until that week before. And they said, no, how can we help you? How can we help you stay here? Blah, 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 blah. So they upgraded me to a bigger room at the hotel, and they let me bring in a couple people that sewed in that area. And I set up my little shop right there in the hotel room. And while I was teaching, the people were sewing in my room. I actually even had them stay all night in my room.
They stayed in the extra bedroom on the couch. I mean, it was crazy. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And I had the other guest artists who I knew, Michael, Mark, Drum. It was so funny. I said, can you come in and fit these costumes for these backup dancers for Mariah? I need a male statue to put these costumes on. Oh my gosh, they came in, they were fitting on them, we were putting them. Oh, it was so much fun. And then I had to buy an extra suitcase. I had to go shopping for the fabric. I had to ask everybody down there, where do I get the fabric, in Dallas, Texas. And I had to buy an extra suitcase, bring it all back here. And then for 2 or 3 days straight, round the clock, full time, working on them to get them finished. And then that didn't even count her dress, which I had to completely redo because it didn't fit her. Crazy. But that's the process. If I need them, I know where to get them. I can bring in talent, and it depends on what someone's talent is. I mean, do I need help with illustrating? Do I need help with sewing? Do I need help with shopping? Do I need help with just cutting the patterns? Do I need help? Do I need someone else to come in and just be a big support to everybody? Who's the most energetic person I know that's going to get us through this hump? Let's get them in here. So, and it helps to be a team player when you're working like that, because there are a lot of people I don't call, because I have to have someone that's ready to work and ready to go. And I'm very good to them, very good to them. I give them credit where credit's due. I feed them constantly. You're hungry? I mean, I lay out tons of food. I want to keep them going, because it's important for me that they feel part of the process and part of what is just happening. And that I have people that call me that live in the middle of Kansas, that live in the middle of West Virginia. And they're like, I don't care what you're doing. Just tell me what you're doing. I'll buy a plane ticket and I'll come to you and I'll just help you do it. That's how much they want to be involved in it. And I'm like, no. If I need you, I'll call. And I do. I call all the time. You can ask the people I call. They're like, and I have people I call and they're like, oh, I can't. I'm doing this. And I have people I call and they're like, tell me where to go. Just tell me what to do, which is so amazing. But you get that roster of talent that you've gained over the years. And, I have people that I know that do nothing but just dye. They dye fabric. They dye sequins. They dye fabrics. They dye leathers. And when I need that person, I know who to call.
It's a variety of positions that I learned from you, like just several, like, wow, there are people who do this particular segment, this one thing, that one. So this was very informative to me. I wonder, is there a particular set of tools that you have to have when you are working on these big projects, or any type of sewing machines, or what can kids who are listening go and get right now as they are building themselves as costume designers?
Okay, here's the thing. You do not have to have money to buy and sew. I mean, maybe a little, but we're not talking, you really don't have to have a sewing machine. If you have one, you're lucky. If you can afford one, yes, get one. Don't buy a computer, just buy a basic sewing machine. The first thing you need to learn about a sewing machine is how it works, and how the tension works, how to sew on it, how the underbelly of it works, because the majority of people that stop sewing, they stop sewing because the machine doesn't work right. Oh, I can't get the tension on it. Oh, I can't get the machine to work on it. Sit down for a month and learn how to sew just scrap fabrics. And when I talk about scrap fabrics, I'm talking about sheets, towels, old clothes that you don't want anymore. You don't have to go out and buy fabrics. Go to a thrift store, buy spend $1.25 on an old big sheet and just start sewing on it. Learn how to sew on that machine. If you don't have the monies for a machine, get a sewing kit, or spend $1 on a spool of thread and $1 on a pack of needles, or go to a hotel and ask them for mending kits. Every hotel has them. They'll give them to you for free. The next time you're at a hotel or you're at a business, do you have a mending kit? A lot of businesses give them away. Broadway Dance Center here in New York City gives away mending kits. If you're a dancer, you should have a mending kit in your bag at all times anyway, just in case a button pops off, just because something. Learn how to sew a button on. That's a huge start. But you can get a needle and a thread and you can sew anything. Start out with learning how to sew a bag, a pillowcase. understand there are TikTok and YouTube videos out there that can start you from step A to B to make anything, absolutely anything. Really understand how to sew. Hand sewing is important. It's very important. If you want to really learn to sew, learn to hand sew first and then go up into a machine. You don't have to have a machine. I can hand sew a complete garment together. Takes a long time, but you really learn how to do it. You really learn how to hand sew. I travel with a kit. My kit has my machine. My kit's like a Mary Poppins kit. It has everything in it. My kit is big. It rolls on 4 wheels. And then I have a kit that I travel with an airplane on just as well when we tour. So my kit consists of everything, 50 different colors of threads, 10 bobbins, 4 different pair of scissors, buttons galore, rhinestones, glue, sprays. I have a steamer and a portable iron. I have an ironing mat. So many basic things that you need. Learning to sew is so important, but learning to sew correctly, because I know a lot of people that sew, learning to iron as you sew is a major, major step that a lot of people pass over. And it's wrong, because if you sew a seam and you iron it, if you don't iron it, it just goes all over. But if you iron it correct way, the garment lays so much better. And you know what? If you can't afford to take sewing lessons, get on YouTube. There are thousands of people that will teach you how to sew. Get on TikTok. Follow these people that create and sew. I follow people all over the world that sew. I know people that live in areas where they can't buy thread. I mean, we're talking very impoverished areas. They take garments that they already own, or garments that someone gives them for free, and they take the hem and they pull it gently just to use the thread out of that hem. And that's the thread they make to make something else. They take all the threads out of a constructed garment singularly just to have thread. So, but no, I mean, for $2 or $3, you can buy a sewing kit at like Family Dollar, Walmart, Target, something like that. Buy one, even if it's a little tiny one, just buy it. It's not, you don't need a big fancy sewing kit. If you want to sew, sit down with fabric and just sew something. Sew the simplest thing you can. Sew a pillowcase, three sides. That's it. That's all you need to know. Sew a bag. So if you want to learn patterning, take a pair of old shorts or old top that you have, lay it down on an old piece of fabric and take chalk, trace around it, cut it out, sew it together. See what it looks like. You will learn so much just by trial and error. And there will be so many errors. You want to mess up so you understand how to do it again the next time. But the truly dedicated will find a way to do it. And you know what I tell kids all the time when I teach at conferences? If you don't have the means to a sewing kit, come up and see me after class. I've actually had kids come up and see me. I'm like, give me your address. I'll send them something tiny, small, couple needles, couple rolls of thread on a piece of cardboard. Just simple. Here you go. These are needles and thread. That's all you need. This is it. I mean, I've had kids that say, I don't have the money to go buy that. I can't. I help. There's a school here in New York City up at Hunts Point, and it's a very, very low income area, and it's a middle school. And someone called me and they said, hey, they're doing Romeo and Juliet. They're not really building costumes, but they need some help with things that they have. I'm like, sure, I'll go up. No big deal. I mean, we're talking middle school, and I went through 2 detectors, metal detectors, to get in this middle school. And I'm going to say, I think that they said it was like 45% homeless rate at this school. And, you know, you hear schools is like, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that. This school did not have anything. I mean, nothing. So the second time I went, I made everybody, all the kids, little tiny sewing kits, and I put them in little baggies. No big deal. Didn't they be fancy? Just little things that they could learn and do. I even took paper towels, tore the paper towel, folded it up and put in the baggie, and showed them how to sew with red thread and a needle on a white paper towel so we could see the stitches. You don't even have to have fabric. You can sew on newspaper. You can sew on magazine pages. If you really want to truly learn how to sew, you can sew on anything. And I have to say, I learned more than the students did about their creativity and what they were doing with these paper towels. And I had one kid come up to me and they made a skirt they cut it out and sewed it in. And I'm like, come on, stop. What? You need stuff in your hands. You need fabrics. You really need to create and go on. So just seeing that and watching them, you hear people say, well, we don't have anything. And then you see someone who truly has nothing and they're over there creating with a paper towel and a needle and a piece of thread. It blows me away. It's like that. See, and I have a lot of people like, God, I can't believe what you do. It's so amazing. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, don't give me that accolade. Let me take you somewhere that they deserve this accolade. Look what this student did with a paper towel. You talk about creative and just off the chart good. This is where we need to protect those future students and to put them on a path of more creativity and not put them in a path of failing. It's like maybe that student wasn't a book reader. Maybe that student wasn't someone who their thought process didn't work like a regular student. Maybe that student's thought process was, oh, I see something differently and I'm gonna create it. Oh, could you imagine having a room full of them in one big room and getting together and making something, no matter what they made, no matter which direction they went in, it would be amazing.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you've done so much and you have helped so many. And I'm curious, what is your professional goal? There's so much you could offer. What is another level for you?
I don't know. I've reached kind of a pinnacle. I've done a lot. I just want to keep working and I just want to keep teaching. And I, just try to live day to day, week to week, and not get too caught up in it because, I still have a family and I still have a husband and I still have my friends, which, I connect with my friends weekly. And I just want to do as much as I can. Actually, I do have a goal. And I'm not quite there, about halfway there. Besides teaching in every state and every continent, because I do want to do that, I want to work with every big magazine publication out there. And I've worked with about half of them. And I mean, there's a few I haven't worked with, but I would like, because I do have a really big collection stack of magazines that I'm in. And that's really cool to me. That's just something fun, just something to do. I like the direction that my career is going in now with designing, because I've had a lot of people ask me to design something for them to wear for this look or for this red carpet or for this tour or this or that and the other. So that's really fun. That's a whole different ball game, just doing one-off pieces and really doing something different for that person and knowing that person and try to build it around them custom. So hopefully that will take more shape in the future, but I don't know, maybe grandkids one day in my future, right? That would be fun. That's something that I haven't experienced and I would like to. I mean, it might happen, it might not happen, but I have a lot of little godchildren that I love and spoil to death. So if it doesn't happen, I'll be fine.
You mentioned some editorials and you've worked with a lot of artists. Can you name 3 that you would love to work with in each area, artists and editorials?
I want to work with Beyonce. Come on. Who wouldn't want to be in the Beehive? Come on. Jeez. And I know all of our stylists and, and a lot of them have kind of taunted me about, hey, maybe this project or that project, but it never has come around. I'm like, can't believe you're teasing me with working Beyonce. You don't really actually ask me. It's like, I would love to work with Beyonce. Trying to think who else I would love to work with besides, because I've worked with a lot. I love Bono from U2. I call him a modern day prophet. I would love to work with Bono. Even though he's not really fashion, but I like his look and I like what he stands for. And I'm really big about his words. Trying to think who else I would love to work with. I, I, I there's, oh, I'd like to work with Taylor Swift. I would love to work with Taylor Swift. I know those are all music people. I'm trying to think Starway because I've worked with Anne Hathaway, Viola Davis in the theater world or in the movie world. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot out there that I haven't worked with, but there's really not one that I dreamed about working with, but except Beyonce and Bono and Taylor Swift. And, maybe I'll get that chance. Maybe I won't. And I just love how and seeing Taylor Swift in her new tour and all of her clothes that she's wearing. Oh my gosh. It's like, girl, you just set the bar pretty high there for everybody else. Now these other people go have to be running to chase you and what you're wearing. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. There's so many. I'm trying to think who else. Oh.
Or just editorials since you were able to give the artists.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've been in Vogue. I've been in W. I've been in V. I've been in Harper's Bazaar, High Sobriety, Vanity Fair. I've been in all of those. So I've been in the top ones. I haven't been in 17. I think that would be fun. I mean, there's very few editorial that I haven't done, but but the ones that I haven't done, I'm gonna try to get in. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll quit all of this and I will volunteer at SeaWorld because I've always loved to work with like sea animals and turtles and Shamu and people like that, or things like that, animals like that. That excites me. That's something I could see myself doing. Or maybe I could just be a grandma and take my grandbabies to SeaWorld and enjoy it that way. That would be fun. I don't know. I just try to live basically and take it moment by moment and I never have the same day twice, hardly. And just knowing that change is going to happen every single day. That to me is fun and exciting. I know a lot of people could not do that. I know a lot of people like to stay in the same routine, and that's fine. I am not that person. I'm the person that's like, yeah, oh, it's raining now. Let's go. Oh, it's icing now. Let's go. Oh, it's really hot now. Let's go. Change to me is wonderful. I love change. I can accept change very well. And I have to change. I have to be able to change daily, even hourly sometimes. Oh, we're not going to be at this studio. We're going to go out on somewhere else outside and shoot here. So I have to have everything ready to go outside because we're not going to be indoors and have the comfy electricity that we might need to get this done. So you got learning to hand sew. It really comes in handy when you're in the middle of a shoot and you're on the ocean. So that's a bonus. But I like that. I think that is really cool, being able to change every single day. But I don't know, goal wise, just trying to be the best person I can and try not to let the small stuff eat me alive, which, it's hard sometimes, but I'm really good at that. And I try to keep my mouth closed politically when I'm in a big group. It's hard. It's hard because you know what? I think this next generation is going to save us because, oh my gosh, I'm so supportive of them speaking their mind and saying, you know what, enough. We're going to be here longer than all of you people that are older. We've got to start our own way of how we want our world to be. And I'm just so proud of this next generation. I try to keep my political stance quiet, but it's really tough sometimes. But I'm here for watching them take their seat as they continue to keep our country going, or United States going. That's for sure. But I don't know, travel. I love to travel. I was in the Philippines for almost a month with a high school group doing a show. Yeah, from the Philippines. And I'll tell you, the one thing I learned when I was over there, and it's the biggest lesson I think I've ever learned in my life, is no matter where these high schools kids live or junior high students live, they're all the same. They all think the same. They all act the same. They all have the same things going on. I was in the Philippines and we were doing Miss Saigon. And the boys during the wedding scene, which is this loving, beautiful, sweet, tearjerk of a scene of Kim getting married to her boyfriend, all the boys were backstage mimicking the scene and putting it on YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat, just doing what they do here in America, imitating that scene of what they're doing on stage. And oh my gosh, I'm telling you. And the one thing I walked away was a 15-year-old in the Philippines is the same as a 15-year-old in America, is the same as a 15-year-old in Australia. It's still a 15-year-old person. And what they do there is what they do all over the world. Everyone thinks, oh, we're 15 here and we're so different, this, that, and the other. No, you're not. You're just like a 15-year-old there and a 15-year-old there. And, allowing them to be 15 is so magical. And letting them be 15 and seeing it through their eyes is what brings me great joy, because that was so eye-opening. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I see when I'm in the middle of a show in Ohio or a show in Texas. That is exactly what goes on. So that was fun.
I love it. So we're about to transition into the final segment where we're going to ask some rapid fire. Some of them are rapid fire. Some of them just allow us to get to know you a little bit better. So okay. I'm going to ask questions and you can just give your response. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Let's do this. Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs.
Window or aisle seat?
Oh, aisle. I'm old. I have to use the bathroom every 20 minutes. Go ahead.
What book would you give as a gift?
Oh, The Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss.
What movie can you not resist watching if it came on right now?
Oh, Devil Wears Prada.
I love that movie. Yes. What is your favorite recipe to cook?
Enchiladas.
Okay. What is your favorite word?
Fabulous.
I love that word too. Fabulous. Yes. What turns Shirlee on?
Oh my God. Strong, confident. Strong, confident, a really clean smell. I'm around so many things all the time. People, clothes, smells drive me insane. So a really clean, fresh smell. Oh my gosh. That is like, but someone that's confident, someone that's strong, someone that's quietly understated, but I can see their confidence. Yeah.
What makes you laugh the most?
Oh, my children and their sick humor. And it's usually pointed towards me. Yeah. Yeah.
What would be your theme music if you were to walk into a room?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. It'd have to be something from the 80s. Oh my gosh, I don't know. My theme music. I'm going to say something from Saturday Night Fever because I love that soundtrack and I listen to it all the time when I'm working. So anything from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, and it's got to be something upbeat and go on. Or you're going to laugh your behind off here. I love, what was that song that I was just listening to the other day? I cannot believe I can't think of this, but it was something from the club days back in the 80s. And I heard it and I haven't heard it for a long time. And I'm like, put it on repeat. My gosh, I love this. Oh God, I can't believe it'll hit me.
Okay. So the song is playing and I'm sure it's going to come to you. So imagine the song is playing and let's say that you are given this superhero power. What would that power be while this song is playing? Come on, song. What's the name of it? So you're flying, or what is that superpower that you have?
Oh, I wish I could fly.
Oh, I don't know why I even said flying. That is so.
I wish I could Fly. Oh my gosh, I wish I could fly. I mean, it would be so cool. I mean, I know I can't, but just to kick off and just start flying, that would be so cool. But yeah, any song from the 80s that is club song would be another song I have to say would be Borderline from Madonna. I love that song. But it takes you back to a time where it was just fun and oh my gosh. But no, anything like that. Or I'm gonna tell you another song that I would love to hear play is anything off of Beyonce's Lemonade album. Oh my gosh. It's like, girl, I see you. I see you. Oh my gosh. Anything off of that album. I mean, I love all of her other albums and songs, but I really love that one.
I love it. I love it. So let me ask you, I know that you want to work with Beyonce. Is there any other person on social media that you like to follow, or artists, or just people in general?
Yeah. My good friend Zoe Hong, who lives in Oakland. She's an amazing illustrator, fashion person who teaches on YouTube. And I just love following her. And she's such a wealth of information, and she's my go-to when I really want something bounced off of, because she's been in the business for so long when it comes to the fashion world. In the costume world, it would have to be, I have someone upstate. Her name is Mary Farmer, who is an amazing builder. And anytime I need something that's out of this world, she's my go-to person there. And these are both friends of mine that, I've known for a while. I'm trying to think of somebody else that on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. Man, TikTok just crazy. I love TikTok. I can get on TikTok and in an hour learn how to save the world, basically. I don't know. There's so many different people. I like Brene Brown. I like listening to her. I think she's funny. She's got a lot of perspective. I love to watch Viola Davis's Instagram account. I think she's very insightful. She has lived through a lot and very understanding. I think that's it. I don't think there's anybody else. There's a lot of fashion people I follow, a lot of, I think those would be my go-to ones right there.
Okay. If you could offer yourself one piece of advice, younger as in, a letter to yourself, what would you say? And maybe that could be something that aspiring costume designers could also benefit from.
Grow where you're planted. Wherever you're planted, just start growing. Don't think just because you're in the middle of Southern Ohio with no malls, no fashion, big fashion around you, nobody around you to guide you or help you, but start doing what you love and just start growing. Find a church that's doing a play, find a children's theater that's doing a play, find somebody in the neighborhood that wants to put on plays in their yard. Start somewhere, grow where you're planted. If you are in high school and you're in college, you're in a smaller little school and you don't think that they have the means, they do. You can go to any place that has shows that come in, and you're in high school and college, and you can work backstage let's say you're at a community college, go there and start working backstage. Just grow where you're planted. You will get to where you need to be, but not everyone needs to run to New York or LA or London, because sometimes those bigger cities, you run there and they eat you up. It is hard. It is really hard. You have to be really strong. And I'm a big supporter of either going to college for 4 years or learn a trade for 4 years or going to an apprenticeship for 4 years. Not so much to learn the craft, because if you're good, you're going to be good. You're going to learn it anyway. But that helps you grow as a person, because who you are at 18 is not who you're going to be at 23. You're two different people. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I couldn't imagine me at 18 thinking I'm going to get out and do this and that and the other, because a year later you change your mind. And it's good. That's okay. You're allowed to change your mind. No one says that you have to stick with this and do this forever. And being adaptable, but growing where you're planted is a major piece of advice that I give to everybody.
Wonderful. And I received that too. Grow where you are planted. So final thoughts and final questions. What projects are you looking forward to?
Oh my goodness. Well, Madonna has a big tour coming up, huge big tour coming up. So that is on my penciled in list. I have a Broadway show that I have been involved with for a while, and we're fingers crossed that it might move up to Broadway, which would be a huge, big thing for me. I have 2 editorials this week, and then I have a concert that I'm doing a piece for Miss Mariah Carey. And then next fall, I already have another concert for someone else that I'm doing a piece for them as well. And then International Thespian Festival in June is coming up. So that'll be fun. And trying to think if there's something else. There's a couple things I can't talk about, but those are the big things. Those are the big things that are on my list for right now. Okay. Just trying to make it to Easter because my gosh, I love caramel and chocolate and Reese's peanut butter eggs. Oh my heavens. It's just, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Ready for Easter. So.
And would you like to give some shout outs or some love outs to those who have been particularly supportive of you on your journey?
Oh my gosh. The EDTA staff, the Corey Wilkerson. Oh my heavens. Jim, Corey, Ken. I mean, these are people that when we were working on the curriculum that literally held my hand and walked me through it because I'm not a teacher. I wasn't raised in that world. They have been amazing in that field and helping me pull up that way. Oh my gosh, who else is... Oh, I have to say my family, my kids who are now old enough to take care of themselves, and now they let me fly. And my husband who lets me go, and they don't complain too much about it. Oh my gosh. I have so many friends that have just stepped in above and beyond and just have helped in more ways than they could ever know. And they know who they are. I don't have to name them. No, I think that's it. If I was to sit here and give shout outs, it would go on for days. Like literally, it's like, what aspect here? Which person am I working with? Who's getting me here to there? I've met so many people at production companies that I've come to learn that they hold a lot of power. And that is the learning process of what I do. And I've met some great people and that just keep lifting me up higher and higher every time I do one job and I think, oh, that's cool. Then they give me a call and they're like, oh, we're going to be doing this. And I'm like, oh, wow, that is so cool. And they just keep bringing me along on the ride. You know, the journey is everything. It's not the end. It's not the beginning, but it's the journey that counts. And taking that journey and all the people that you are riding along with you. And there are so many. Oh my gosh, so many. But my 3 daughters, wow, I learned so much from them daily. And everyone brings something different to me, which is amazing. So that would be it. And you, girl, look at you. I'm so proud of you. I can't stand it. I mean, it is so fun to see women following their heart and their passion. And you know, a lot of people's like, well, why do you do this? And I'm like, it's just, I do it because it's what I have to do. There's nothing else that I could do that I wouldn't be. And, you know, people's like, oh, you know, do what you love. You never work a day in your life. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I work every day of my life and I work nonstop, day in, day out, but I still love it. I just happen to love it, but I do work constantly. But look at you. I'm following you and making sure I get in on what you're doing every day. That's a big bonus.
Well, thank you. All I want to do is make sure that my service is impactful and that I'm genuinely helping someone. If that means connecting someone that I've met, some student to a professional that may be in the area, in the space they want to be in, like, here you go. I know this great artist, so I just want to do my best to help be of service. And my last question, speaking of, connecting, is there a way for people to connect to you or your group or follow you on social media? Please share. How can young people connect with you?
Well, I know that the young people don't do Facebook. I do, because I have a group on Facebook called Costuming for Everyone, and it's a mentoring group. And it's a great group to be in if you're into fashion, costuming, color theory, art, anything like that. And it's a no judgment zone, and we help a lot of different people from all over. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. It is costumer.shirlee. And Shirlee is spelled Shirlee. And I think that's it. I do social media for fun. I'm not really big on promoting my brand on social media, but I do sometimes go live if I'm backstage at working a show, or I post pictures after the fact that they've come out already. And it's just fun. But yeah, I love to hear from anybody. Connect, talk, ask me questions. You can ask me on Instagram or TikTok. I just posted something on both Instagram and TikTok, and actually there's going to be a post comes out today on both of those. So get on there and look and see what's happening. I don't do it all the time, but when I do it, it's something that I've been working on.
Wonderful. Well, we have come to the end of the spotlight for today's. If this podcast helped you, please share. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Dream of Drea across all social media platforms. My name is Drea of Dream of Drea, production company specializing in driving ideas from pages to stages and from your dreams to screens. Remember, wherever you are, right now is the perfect time to act on your dreams. Thanks again to Shirlee, who was so gracious to share her path with us. And we will connect with you all next time. Take care, everybody.
Bye, Drea. Thank you, dear.